Right. I need you to stop whatever you're doing. I mean it. If you're driving, pull over. If you're on the treadmill, slow it down. If you're doing the washing up, leave it. The dishes can wait. This cannot. Because I'm going to tell you about money. Money that your charity has already earned. Money that is sitting there waiting for you to collect it. Money that HMRC, yes, that HMRC is legally obligated to hand over to you. And there's a very good chance you haven't collected it. Not because you couldn't, not because you didn't qualify, but because nobody told you clearly enough, loudly enough, or frankly enough that you were leaving it on the table. Until now. Welcome to the Strategic Health Check, the podcast for small to mid-sized UK health charities that are done with strategic advice and ready for real strategy. I'm Gaign, founder and director of Gaign Strategic Fundraising, and I am your host. I need to say something before we get into today's episode, and I'm going to say it with love because everything I do on this podcast comes from a place of genuine care for this sector. Some of you are absolutely brilliant at what you do. You show up every day for your cause, for your beneficiaries, for your team. You write grant applications at midnight. You steward donors with warmth and intention. You run events on a shoestring and somehow make them feel like £1,000,000. And then you leave £50,000 on the table every year because your gift aid declarations are a mess. I know. I know. Take a breath. Today we are talking about gift aid. And I promise you, by the end of this episode, you will either feel relieved because you've got it sorted, or you will feel a very specific kind of motivated discomfort that will make you open your CRM the moment this episode ends. Either outcome is a win. Let's go. £564 million. £564 million every single year. That's the amount of gift aid that UK charities are legally entitled to claim from HMRC and don't. Not because the donors didn't pay tax, not because the donations weren't eligible, but because the declarations weren't in place. The processes weren't tight enough. Or frankly, and I say this with love, nobody was paying close enough attention. Now, I want you to make that number personal for a second, because £564 million is abstract. It doesn't feel real. So why not bring it home? If your charity has, say, 500 donors, and many of you listening have more than that, and let's say 70% of them are UK taxpayers, which is a reasonable assumption. And let's say the average donation across your donor base is £150 a year. That's a pretty modest figure. If you had gift aid declarations for all of those eligible donors, you would be claiming back 25p for every £1 donated. On £150 from 350 tax-paying donors, that is £13,125 a year in gift aid alone that you have already earned, that is just sitting there. Now, what if your declarations are only 60% complete? You're leaving over £5,000 on the table. What if they're 50% complete? You're leaving over £6,500 unclaimed. What if, and this is more common than anyone wants to admit, your declarations are a patchwork of paper forms, old online tick boxes, and a spreadsheet that nobody has updated since 2022? Then we have a problem, and we need to fix it today. Now, here's where I have to be honest with you about something because I think it's genuinely funny and also genuinely important. I am a fundraiser through and through. You guys know this. I have spent my career asking people for money. I started out as a door to door fundraiser, and not just any door to door fundraiser. I was record breaking at it. I know what it feels like to stand on a doorstep, look someone in the eye, and make the ask. I know the psychology of urgency. I know how act now and limited time and don't miss out work on people. And I am acutely, that those phrases can be used manipulatively. That act fast can be a pressure tactic. That artificial urgency is one of the oldest tricks in the book, and it's exactly the kind of thing that gives fundraising a bad name. So it is with a very particular kind of irony that I have to tell you this. You need to act fast. No, seriously, I'm not being manipulative. I am not creating artificial urgency. The deadline is real. It's tomorrow. The Great Gift Aid Hunt, an annual campaign run by Swift Aid, backed by the Chartered Institute of Fundraising and Just Giving, closes on the 24th of April, 2026. Tomorrow. Because this episode drops on the 23rd. The deadline is the day after you hear this. I know. I can hear you. Jose, you're a fundraiser telling me to act fast on a deadline that's tomorrow? Really? Yes, really, because here's the difference between what I'm doing right now and a dodgy urgency tactic. The deadline is not something I made up to pressure you. It's a real campaign with a real closing date that could put real money into your charity's bank account. And the fact that this episode drops the day before that deadline is, hand on heart, a coincidence. So perfect that if I had planned it, you would not believe me. So, yes, a fundraiser is telling you to act fast. And for once in your life, you should listen. The Great Gift Aid Hunt is free to participate in. You upload your donation data. SwiftAid matches it against millions of UK taxpayer records. Donors get notified and can create a gift aid declaration unless they opt out, and SwiftAid submits the claims to HMRC. Past campaigns have unlocked more than £1.5 million in missed income for participating charities. 98% of charities who take part find unclaimed gift aid. 98%. That means if you're listening to this and you've not participated before, there's a 98% chance you have money waiting for you. The link is in the show notes. The deadline is tomorrow. I will say it one more time and then I will move on. Act fast. Coming from me, that means something. Right. Before we go any further, I want to make sure that we are all on the same page about what gift aid actually is. Because here's a truth nobody says out loud. A lot of charity leaders, including some very experienced ones, are not entirely sure they understand it properly, and they are too embarrassed to ask. I've been there. So we're going to fix that right now. No jargon, no shame, no blame, no judgment, just clarity. What is gift aid? Gift aid is a UK government scheme that allows charities to reclaim the basic rate of income tax on donations made by UK taxpayers. That rate is currently 20%. Here is how it works in practice. When a UK taxpayer donates £10 to your charity, they have already paid income tax on the money they earned before they donated it. The government says, we'll give the tax back to the charity. So your charity can claim an extra £2.50 on top of that £10 donation, making the total value of the gift £12.50 at no extra cost to the donor. The donor gives 10%, you receive £12.50. The government covers the difference. That is it. That is gift aid. But Jose, why £2.50 and not £2? You said the tax rate is 20%. Great question. Here's the slightly counterintuitive bit. The donor paid 20p in tax for every 80 pence they kept. So on a £10 donation, the gross income before tax was £12.50 and the tax on that was £2.50. The charity claims back that £2.50. It is calculated on the gross amount, not the net, which is why the formula is donation divided by 0.80 times 0.20, or more simply, donation times 0.25, 25 pence for every pound donated. Now, you're probably asking, what does the donor need to do? Well, first, they need to make a gift aid declaration. This is simply a statement, which can be verbal, written, or digital, confirming that they are a UK taxpayer and they want the charity to claim gift aid on their donation. It can cover past donations up to 4 years back, the current donation, and all future donations. So basically, one declaration can do a lot of work. The donor does not need to do anything else. They do not need to fill in a form with HMRC. They do not get any less money. They just need to confirm they pay UK income or capital gains tax. Now, what are the rules? The donor must pay at least as much UK income or capital gains tax in the year as the amount of gift aid being claimed. So if someone donates £100 and you claim £25 in gift aid, they must have paid at least £25 in tax in that year. For most employed UK adults, this is not an issue. For low earners, retirees on small pensions, or people whose income is entirely from ISAs or savings, it can be. So it is worth reminding donors to check. Higher rate taxpayers, those paying 40% or 45% income tax, can also claim back the additional tax relief on their self-assessment tax return. So if a higher rate taxpayer donates £100, your charity claims £25, and they can personally claim back a further £25 from HMRC. This is a powerful conversation to have with your major donors, and almost nobody is having it. What changed in April 2026? From the 6th of April 2026, the government tightened the rules around charitable tax relief to prevent donors or third parties from gaining financial benefits from donations. In plain English, if a donor receives something of significant value in return for their donation, a ticket, a product, a service, the donation may not qualify for gift aid, or only part of it may qualify. The good news is that after significant lobbying from the sector, the government confirmed an exemption for charitable memberships. So if your supporters pay a membership fee to your charity, that income is not automatically disqualified from gift aid. But you need to check whether your membership benefits cross the threshold for significant benefit. And if you are not sure, get advice. The other thing to know, HMRC has launched a new round of structured risk reviews across the charity sector using AI enhanced analytics. They are specifically looking at gift aid governance and processes. This is not a scare tactic, it is a fact, confirmed in the April 2026 NFP sector update. If your gift aid declarations are incomplete, inconsistent, or based on processes that have not been reviewed in years, you are now at regulatory risk as well as financial risk. So, this is not just about claiming money you are owed, it is about making sure you are doing it correctly. Now, let me be direct with you now, because that's what this podcast is for. The real reason £564 million goes unclaimed every year is not because gift aid is complicated. It's not because charities don't care. It's not because HMRC makes it impossible. It's because gift aid sits in a strange no man's land between fundraising and finance, and in most small charities, nobody owns it properly. Your fundraiser thinks it's the finance manager's job. Your finance manager thinks it's the fundraiser's job. Your CEO thinks someone is handling it. And the result is that it falls through the gap between three people who are already doing the jobs of two people each. I've seen this pattern more times than I can count. And I say this not to shame anyone, because the sector is genuinely undersourced and the people in it are working incredibly hard. But to name it clearly, because naming it is the first step to fixing it. Here's the other uncomfortable truth. Some charities have gift aid declarations that are technically in place but practically useless. Paper forms were never properly stored. Online tick boxes from a 2019 website that nobody has checked since the site was redesigned. Declarations that cover, quote unquote, this donation, but not all future donations. Declarations from donors who have since stopped paying tax and never told you. And here's the one that really gets me. Donors who have been giving to your charity for 5, 10, 15 years, loyal, committed, wonderful people who have never been asked for a gift aid declaration. Not once, because it felt awkward to bring it up after so long, or because the person who used to ask left, or because it just never happened. Every year those donors give without gift aid, you are leaving 25 pence on every pound on the table. On a £500 annual gift, that is £125 a year. Over 10 years, that is £1,250 from just one donor. Multiply that across your donor base, and you start to understand how we get to £564 million nationally. But the good news is that this is fixable. It's not complicated to fix. It just requires someone to decide it matters enough to prioritize it. And that someone is you. Now, I want to give you one more piece of context before we get to the practical steps, because I think it changes how you feel about this. The autumn budget raised employer national insurance contributions from 13.8% to 15% and cut the threshold from £9,100 to £5,000. NCVO estimates that this single change is costing the charity sector an additional £1.4 billion per year. That's not a typo. 1.4 billion pounds in additional costs that charities cannot pass on to anyone. Meanwhile, the CAF UK Giving 2026 report, published last month, tells us that 6 million fewer people donate to charity today than in 2016. Total giving fell in 2025 for the first time in 5 years. The average monthly donation is down. Affordability is the biggest barrier to giving. So you're squeezed from both sides. Costs are up. Income is under pressure. And somewhere in your donor database, there is money you have already earned that you have not collected. I am not saying gift aid will solve everything. I'm not saying it's a substitute for a proper fundraising strategy. And if you want to talk about that, you know where to find me. But I am saying that in a year when every pound matters more than it has in a long time, leaving 25 pence of every donated pound unclaimed is not a strategy. It's an oversight, and it's one you can fix. Right. Let's talk about what you actually do. I'm going to give you 5 steps. Some of these you can do today. Some will take a week or two, but all of them matter. Step 1. Do the audit today. Pull your donation records from the last 12 months. How many donations do you have? How many of those donors have a valid gift aid declaration on file? Calculate the percentage. If it's below 80%, you have a significant income gap. If it's below 60%, this is a priority issue. If you genuinely do not know, if you cannot answer this question right now, that is your answer. Step 2. Join the Great Gift Aid Hunt. Tomorrow is the deadline, so do this today. Go to the Swift Aid website, the link is in the show notes, and register for the Great Gift Aid Hunt before the 24th of April. You upload your donation data, They do the matching work, and any gift aid that can be claimed gets claimed. It's free. It takes less time than you think, and 98% of charities who participate find unclaimed gift aid. The deadline is tomorrow. Once again, I'm a fundraiser telling you to act fast. Please, for the love of everything, act fast. Step 3. Review your declaration process. How do you currently collect gift aid declarations? Is it a tick box on your donation form? A paper form at events? A verbal confirmation over the phone? Whatever it is, when did you last check that it's working, that the data is being stored correctly, and that the wording is up to date and compliant with the post 2026 of April rules? If your online donation form does not have a clear, prominent gift aid tick box with the correct wording, fix it this week. If your event sign-up process does not include a gift aid declaration, just add it. If you have a direct debit mandate that does not include a gift aid declaration, update it. Step 4. Have the conversation with your major donors. If you have donors giving £500 or more a year, and they are higher rate taxpayers, they may be able to claim back additional tax relief on their own self-assessment. Most of them don't even know this. Having this conversation, did you know you can personally benefit from your generosity through your tax return, is a powerful stewardship moment. It shows you understand their financial world. It deepens the relationship, and it costs you absolutely nothing. Step 5. Assign ownership. This is the most important step of all. Decide right now who in your organization owns gift aid. Not fundraising and finance share it. One person, their name goes on it. They are responsible for the audit, the process, the declarations, and the claims. If that person is you, fine. If it's someone else, tell them today. Gift aid without ownership is gift aid that does not get claimed. We have established very clearly on this episode what that costs. Do not, for the love of everything, let it keep costing you. I want to close with something that goes beyond the numbers because I think there's a bigger point here. When I talk to charity leaders about gift aid, and I've had this conversation many, many times, there's often a moment of embarrassment, a slight wince. Yes, I know, we really should sort that out. And then it gets added to the list of things that will get sorted out eventually, and eventually never quite comes. And I understand that. I genuinely do. You are running a charity after all, not a gift aid administration service. You have beneficiaries to serve, funders to report to, staff to support, and a board to keep happy. Gift aid isn't glamorous, let's be honest. It does not make the annual report cover. Nobody is going to give you a standing ovation for having 95% declaration coverage. But here's what I want you to hear. The way a charity manages its gift aid is a proxy for how it manages everything else. If your gift aid process is a mess, your donor data is probably a mess. If your donor data is a mess, your stewardship is probably inconsistent. If your stewardship is inconsistent, your retention is probably lower than it should be. And if your retention is lower than it should be, you are working harder than you need to for every pound you raise. Getting gift aid right is not just about the money, although the money is significant and you should want it. It's about building the operational discipline that makes everything else in your fundraising work better. The charities that are thriving in 2026, in a year when costs are up, donors are fewer, and the pressure is relentless, are not the ones with the most charismatic leaders or the most emotive campaigns. They are the ones that have the basics absolutely nailed. The ones where every pound that can be claimed is claimed. Where every donor who can give gift aid does give gift aid. Where the process is so clean and consistent that it runs almost on autopilot. That is what I want for you. Not just the £564 million, but rather the discipline behind it. Right. So here's your homework for this episode. As usual, strategic homework time. 3 things, and do them in order. 1. Today, before you do anything else, calculate your gift aid declaration coverage. Donations in the last 12 months divided by the number with a valid declaration. Get the percentage. Write it down. 2. If you have not already registered for the Great Gift Aid Hunt, do it now. The deadline is tomorrow, the 24th of April. The link is in the show notes. Yes, I know I keep saying it. That's because it's tomorrow. A fundraiser is telling you to act fast. This is the one time in your professional life where act fast is not a pressure tactic. It's just true. 3. By the end of this week, name the person in the organization who owns gift aid. Put it in writing. Send them this episode and book a 30-minute meeting to review your current process together. That's it. 3 things, one today as well, actually, and one by mid next week. Now, I know that was a lot to take in. If this episode has given you a bit of a jolt, good. That was the intention. Not to make you feel bad, but to make you feel motivated. There's a difference, and I hope you can feel it. If you want to go deeper on any of this, if you want to look at your gift aid process, your donor data, your overall fundraising strategy, that's exactly what I do. Head to gainstrategic.co.uk and book a free, no obligation discovery call. No pitch, no pressure. Just a genuine conversation about where your charity is and where it could be. And if you want a PDF summary of today's episode, the key points, the steps, the links, subscribe to the newsletter at strategichealthcheck.com and it will land in your inbox. If this episode has been useful, please share it. Send it to a colleague. Post it on LinkedIn. Tag a fundraiser who needs to hear it. The sector is small. The challenges are big. And the more of us who are operating at our best, the better it is for every charity and every beneficiary we serve. I'm Jose Gaign. This has been the strategic health check. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for listening and take care.